Hi, welcome to the Mayor's Table. I'm City of Farmington Mayor Nate Duckett, and we are out here today at the Bisti De-Na-Zin Wilderness area with my friend Sherry Landon with the Bureau of Land Management, and this is kind of Sherry's playground.
Yes.
So we wanted to offer our audience the opportunity to find places right here near our city where we can go out and explore in places maybe people haven't done before.
Yes.
And we brought the expert with us today. So Sherry, thanks for joining us out here, and we're going to go on a little field trip out towards the De-Na-Zin area. So we're here on the east side of the Bisti Wilderness, correct?
Yes.
And they call this the De-Na-Zin.
De-Na-Zin, yes.
And we're 12 miles essentially off of 550, but what is the difference between this area of the Bisti Wilderness versus the other side?
The De-Na-Zin side has exposures of where the nascent or the early mammals existed, and then down below that you'll get into the KT boundary, and below that the life of the dinosaurs. So at this end you get to see a variety, a little different geology than you see down at the Bisti end.
Okay.
And a lot of good petrified wood up at this end, a lot of big logs. So it's a different geological story at this end versus the Bisti end.
Well, I got to tell you, I hope that throughout this little field trip we're on, we get as much information as I got riding up here with Sherry today and telling us a little bit about the boundary of the event that actually ended the dinosaurs.
Yes, the KT boundary, which is the boundary between the Cretaceous, which was when the dinosaurs were alive, and then you had the big impact, and it was the demise of the dinosaur, and then kind of the explosion of the mammals. And we have an exposure of the KT boundary here, which is rare. It is not exposed in many places throughout the world.
Awesome.
And so you can come here and you can start on top in the age of the mammal and literally walk through the KT boundary. You can put one leg on the Cretaceous and one leg on the Paleocene. I mean, it's real rare, and it's really a neat exposure. The exposure here just really indicates the tectonics, the earthquakes, the turmoil immediately after the impact.
Well, I'm giddy like a schoolboy right now with the opportunity to go out here and explore this today. We hope our audience enjoys this as well. So we're going to go hit the trail and bring you along with us. Let's go, Sherry.
Okay.
Sherry, we stopped just a short way from the parking lot here just to kind of get this scene as you look at the different layers that are exposed in this area. But you told me this is actually part of a river delta.
Yes.
And kind of tell us a little bit about the delta and kind of the life that was going on here, and has the landscape changed very much since that time?
Yes, the formations and the beds you see out here all represent this big delta system that had meandering streams, ponds, really a good environment to support life. You know, the deltas periodically would flood in places, and it's all represented in the mudstones. You know, you've got dark mudstones, blackish mudstones, which are swamps. You've got lighter ash beds that are ash that came from the volcanism from the south by Albuquerque that they use for age dating too. And so it was a very healthy environment. You had water, you had vegetation. This is the reign of when the early mammals came on, no more dinosaurs. So you had beautiful environment, a healthy environment for mammals. And once we go down, we'll drop into the Cretaceous. You know, the petrified wood here is really quite friable. It's very brittle and doesn't take an awful lot for them to weather. But you're left with a great cast. We will go by areas up here where these casts that are left are really important to the scientific community because they preserve the outside texture of that tree. So you're not only getting the shape of the bark, but you're going to have any biological activity, wormholes, nesting. I mean, we'll go by some up here that are really outstanding.
That is cool. That's beautiful. We'll put this
and we're
back
still
in.
not far from the truck.
Just for people to understand that there are certain rules when you go into the wilderness areas. You can't just pick up rocks and take them home and those kind of things, because we want to preserve everything that we have out here. But there's also some other stuff that people should know if they're just going to come out here on a day trip.
Yes, wilderness areas have the policies that are law. You know, you cannot, anything with a wheel cannot come in here. Bicycle, hand cart, nothing. You cannot pick up any fossils, you cannot pick up any rocks. I mean, you could pick them up and look at them and just set them back down, but you can't take, nothing can be removed from a wilderness area. The laws provide guidance so this area stays exactly the same as the day it was designated, and 100 years down the road, it'll still look the same for the future.
For everybody else.
Everybody.
All right.
So that's why it's real strict. It remains the same forever, basically. No change.
Good stuff.
Yeah.
Sherry, we're still walking down that same stream bed, and we've seen tons of fossilized wood, and now we came to this part here where it's a huge outcropping of the KT event, basically. Maybe you could tell us a little bit about what that is and I mean the global impact and timelines.
This is outstanding exposure of the KT boundary, where the mudstone meets the sandstone, marks a time worldwide that is exactly that same time. So you can be in any country in the world, find the KT boundary, and it's the same time period, halfway around the world, same thing.
Again, that KT boundary was created when the meteor hit in Mexico and then spread.
Yes.
I mean, is this essentially ash then? What is this?
This mudstone right here represents the time at the end of the Cretaceous, real quiescent. You know, there wasn't a lot of change in the environment at that time. You know, the dinosaurs were surviving. You know, you didn't have a lot of tectonics going on. But the minute the impact hit, I mean, we had this, the research has figured out that within 5 minutes, the effect of the impact was felt here. And in 15 minutes, the earthquakes hit here. And what you see represented by the sandstone, which is the start of the Paleocene, no more dinosaurs, is that it represents all the tectonics, all these earthquakes. In the bedform structures in the sandstone, you can see that it was very volatile, the ground was shifting, and that was within 15 minutes. So most of the species that survived the impact and the change in the environment were animals that could control where they lived. They either hibernated or they could, you know, like sharks and gars, they could get down deep in the water and survive that way. Or turtles hibernated. Shrews made it through, some of the earliest mammals. But when that impact hit within 15 minutes of the earthquakes, dinosaurs didn't have a chance. I mean, this whole country was just racked with earthquakes. And the sandstone indicates that, you know, you had just this influx of river water and just ripping through here and stripping the ground. It just must have been horrific.
And for the rivers that flowed through this area, because a lot of people, you know, we have this idea that there was an ocean that sat here, but it wasn't an ocean on this area. These
mudstones represent the very quiescent outer edges of a delta. You know, the sheet floods that just could carry the finest material is what's represented here. But as soon as the earthquakes hit here and the ground is shifting, you had the big sandstones. Rivers had more velocity and were just ripping through. And that's where a lot of the petrified wood comes from. When the earthquake started and all of the rivers and the water was flushing through, they were bringing all the logs in. And so most of the petrified wood is associated with that events right after the, you know, the impact.
Awesome. We'll keep going. So we made a little stop here to kind of talk about some areas. And Sherry, you were telling me, what do you love most about the Bisti area? What is something that somebody who's never been out here before, what are they going to find? What's the big deal?
Yeah, I think the Bisti De-Na-Zin is so unique for a wilderness area. You've got outstanding geology. You've got museum quality fossils. You've got dinosaurs. You have mammals. It, it will give an experience to anybody, whatever your experience is. If you want to go to Hoodoo's, you can go to Hoodoo's. You want to go look at fossils, you can go look at fossils. You can come up to the Bisti end and you can see these monstrous conifers, the KT boundary. So whatever they're interested in, it provides it.
Sure.
It's not just one experience. So the Bisti De-Na-Zin differs from each end, but they're both spectacular.
We've made it out about 1.7 miles is what we've gauged this at into the Bisti De-Na-Zin Wilderness, and we have reached the log jam.
Yes.
And this is one of the most incredible places that I've ever seen. And standing right here behind us is a log that must be, I mean, over 30 feet, 40 feet, 50. I mean, it goes all the way down, long, just huge. Mm-hmm. And this isn't even the biggest one. Just on the other side of this, and I know we'll have some footage out there that you can see, we're talking stumps 16 feet wide. Sherry, this is amazing. Thank you for bringing us all the way out to this area, which we made a comment a second ago. It's very accessible.
Very accessible.
You know, the biggest issue, of course, is finding your way here. And I think that's something that that locals and people visiting here, they want to see us work on that. And I know that's a BLM thing, but we want to work together, obviously, with the BLM to try and promote this area. The log book, as you come in, your guest log book there at the front of the trail is filled with people from France, Belgium, I mean, all across the Atlantic Ocean who, and we said, well, how did they find us here?
Yes.
So how are they finding us here?
I meet with a lot of them. I talk with a lot of people on the phone, and it seems like the internet. If they're not associated with a travel group, they get on the internet, they're interested in the Four Corners and what it has to provide. And you know, you have Chaco, you have Mesa Verde, and then they see this wilderness area here in a semi-desert. And then they'll continue to Google and they see all these geologic features and structures, and they just have to see it. And that's pretty much how the people that come in from foreign countries, it's all done by internet.
It's amazing. So we're working on continue to promote that, and our CVB, of course, Tanya Stinson and her staff, they have told me repeatedly that the Bisti is the biggest attraction for folks traveling and looking for areas here. But of course, they're coming to look at Chaco Canyon and Mesa Verde, those places. But let's go back to this log jam, because how does a log end up here in the middle of the desert?
In the middle of the desert. At the time that these logs were brought into this area, recent research has come up with a theory that the timing, geologically, this is tied with the meteor impact and the demise of the dinosaurs. This happened right after it. So you had a lot of earthquakes, violent earthquakes and shifting. And so these conifers have been tracked all the way up into the Chuscas. And brought in a violent storm associated with all the shifting and the earthquakes. And it's amazing when you think how violent the storm had to be to carry these logs in.
Well, to see where the sandstone is and how it all is, you know, we're used to seeing sandstone. It's a very smooth, solid formation. And right behind us here, I mean, we're talking the sandstone comes this way and it comes this way. And you know, this log here has another log that's jutting out from it on this side, and way over there is a log, I mean, probably the biggest tree I'd ever seen in my life. I mean,
yeah, they're all pointing different directions. I mean, an incredible turbulent flow of just a mass of these big logs, but you had to have a violent enough storm with enough slope and water. Yeah, the velocity had to be incredible. Yeah. And to have them all come down like matchsticks.
And the sweet, like matchsticks.
Yeah, and they're these monstrous conifers.
Well, this has been a great adventure for us, and I just, you know, look out there at the audience and tell them, take the time, study up, find these places here. They're here local. When you have friends who come to town, what is there to do here in Farmington? Well, look, we have something like this that they can't find anywhere else in the world, right here in the Four Corners, USA. So
this is the most unique wilderness for the geological features, the fossils, and you can come out here and it is so peaceful. I love coming out here. I love bringing people out, and that's what they comment. It's so beautiful. Around every bend it changes, and you just recharge.
Yeah.
You know, you don't have to, there's no trails to speak of. You just go in there wherever you want and see what you want. And it's just a wonderful place. And it's easily accessible.
I think we may just set up a tent here tonight and check out the sunset, because I can tell you, being out here, considering places like Moab, where you can just be amazed by that beauty, this is one of those places that's a real treasure for us.
Yes.
So thank you for taking the time to bring
You
us
bet.
out here, and we're going to trek back. So we're going to continue the Jolt Your Journey series, and there'll be additional places that we're going to travel with Sherry to. But I think this is one of those that we'll always remember. So thanks, Sherry.
Thank you.